Mr. Alanj.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. How are
Good
you?
evening. 24. Okay, we got a
Eh?
Mishnah 24, 23b in the bottom.
No, 24 we are today.
Yeah, but the Mishnah, we start the Mishnah at 23b in the bottom.
Correct. 23,
Oh,
Bottom.
yeah.
23b on the bottom. HaKorah b'Torah lo yifchos min shlosha psukim. When you called up for an aliyah, it's got to be at least 3 psukim. V'lo yikra lo meturgman yoser pasuk echad. When there's a meturgman, you should do it pasuk by pasuk. People won't be able to follow more than one pasuk. U'v'navi shlosha, but by navi you can read 3 for the meturgman. It's not a big nafkamina because we don't pasuk an halacha from navi. Hayu shloishtan shalosh parshios. If the 3 psukim are 3 different parshios, karin echad echad. You read each one separately. The Gemara will explain what the nafkamina is. Medalgin b'navi. By navi, you can skip. For example, you can start Perek Hey, you skip Perek Vav, and you continue Perek Zayin. But ve'medalgin b'Torah, you can't do the same thing by Kriyas HaTorah. Ve'ad kamahu medalig. How much can you skip? Ad kadesh to become a turgaman. As long as, for example, the last pasuk that you read and the turgaman is translating, the amount of time it takes you to roll to get to the new place, that would be the maximum that you could be medal. Hi, Kenny. We're on Chaf Daled Amud Aleph, the Gemara. The Mishnah said that when you have an aliyah, it can't be less than 3 psukim. Hani shlosha psukim keneged me. The count of 3 is analogous to what? Amravasi, keneged Torah Nevi'im Uksuvim, the 3 divisions of Tanakh. We said that if there's a meturgim, a translator, you should read pasuk by pasuk. V'navi shlosha psukim. By Navi, you could lane 3 psukim, and the meturgim could translate 3 psukim. If the 3 psukim are different parshios, you have to read them separately, even though they're next to each other. For example, in Yeshaya, Nun Beis, Kicho Amar Hashem Chinam Nimkartem. And then it says, Kicho Amar Hashem Lokim Yitzram Yerad Ami Berishona. And then, Ve'atam Aliponu Hashem, each one's a different parsha. We're on Chaf Daled Amud Aleph, Harold and Walter. We said, Medalgin B'Navi Ve'Medalgin B'Torah. If you're laning a Haftorah, you can skip, let's say you start Perek Hey, and then let's say you skip Perek Vav and you continue Perek Zayin. We have haftarahs like that, where it's from different prokim. But a medagan b'Torah, you can't do the same thing by Kriyas HaTorah. Freit the Gemara Verimini, I'll ask you a kasha. Koirei, the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur reads Achrei Mois, and then he reads Va'ach Ba'asor, he reads from Emor, so you skipped Va'aka Medali. Rabbi Lakasha Kan Bichdei Shivsa Katurgamin. That is not that far apart, and therefore you could roll there while the meturgman is translating the previous pasuk. The kan, when it says that you can't, where if you skip so far that the meturgman has to stop and it's going to be a tircha d'tzibur, then that you can't be medalig so much. Freik the Gemara v'ha'allah ktani medagim b'navi v'medagim b'toira. It says very clearly you can't be medag b'Torah no matter what. But kamel medalig akadesh leifsak meturgimin. Michlal de b'Torah klal klalo. Navi you can be medag, but not Torah. Amar by loikash kan binyan echad. That means Yom Kippur achrei mois and ach ba'asor lachodesh hazeh is the same subject matter. The subject matter of Yom Kippur. There you can be medalig. Kan b'shtei yonis. By Navi, you can even be medalig 2 different subject matters. The Hatanya, there's a barisa to support that. Rashi says b'nichusa, to support. Medagim b'Torah binyan echad. You're allowed to skip parshios when you're doing Kriyas HaTorah as long as it's one subject. With Navi b'shnei yonim. Kan v'kan b'chdei shelo yisuk ha-meturgemin. Each one, you can't be medalig more than the period of time that the meturgemin takes to translate the previous pasuk. Tanya, you can't be medalig from, let's say, Yeshaya to Yirmiyah. However, the Navi shel Shnei Masar medalig, Treyasar, where there's 12 different books of Nevi'im, that's all considered one book, and you can be medalig from Amos to Hosea. You can't go backwards. You can't, read from the end of Sefer Hosea and then read in the beginning of Sefer Hosea.
Is the Meturgemin, is he translate literally, or does he give the explanation of the pasuk?
He gave the Aramaic translation.
So no, but not the content of what really it is. Just the word by word by word.
Well, look at Onkelos. Onkelos many times will give you pshatim, will give you a pshat, almost like Rashi. It's not just
So
a
that-
translation. So that's
so
what
that's-
that's what the Turgeman was.
So he could be an extended dude. I mean, it could be an extended Meturgemin too. So it takes time sometimes
Yeah.
to translate a pasuk. So
Yeah.
that is still allowed, and it's not hefsek in the reading of the Torah itself.
Absolutely not. That's the way that's the way
Right. Okay.
it's set up.
Okay.
Hamafter benavi, who paris al shma. By being given the Haftarah, which was not one of the Sheva Kruyim, the Chachamim made a takana that they gave him a reward because people didn't want to do it because it wasn't one of the Sheva Kruyim. So the din was he davened Shachris. He had the Birchas Kriya Shema v'oiver lifnei hateva, and he davened as the Chazan for Shachris to be Moitzi Kedusha. Luhnose is Kapov. And he duchens if he's the Kohen. B'maya cotton, we said that Haftarah can be lain by a cotton. So what reward do you give the cotton? Because he can't daven for the Amid. Aviv Rabbo Oivin al Yado. His father or his Rebbe takes his place and serves as the Baal Shachris. Cotton koyer b'Torah metargim. Cotton can read the Torah and he can also do the Turgemin. Aval eino poras al shma. He can't serve as the shliach tzibur for birchas kriya shma. Baruch hu ve'eino over lifnei hateva. He can't be the shliach tzibur for Shmona Esrei. Ve'eino noses cup of a cotton cannot duchen. Pocheach, someone who's not dressed properly, and his skin is revealed. Poiris shma metargim. He can say Baruch Hu, but he can do the Turgemin of Alena Korba Torah. It can't be a Krisa Torah. It's not covered at Tzibur. Venois is Kapov. Same thing, he can't duchen. Suma, Poiris Shema, he can say Baruch Hu and the Birchas Kriya Shema Metargim. He can also translate what he hears. He obviously can't see, but he can translate what he hears. Whoever didn't, if somebody was blind from birth and never saw the sun and the moon, the ma'oros. So one of the birchas haTorah, we talk about the ma'oros, ain't a paris al shma. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the summa, a blind person cannot daven the kriya shma brachos. Now, my timer. Why, by the guy who reads the Navi, do we give him Shachris? Rav Papa Mishum Kavod. Because since the Haftarah is given to children as well, an adult who's given the Haftarah, it's like a zilzul in his Kavod.
Does that mean he davens Shachris or would he daven Musaf?
Shachris.
Meaning after the Maftir?
Shachris, because it says, Paris al Shema, V'hu Oiver Lifnei HaTeva, which follows Kriya Shema. And that's, by the way, the halacha is, if someone has yard site, bo bayom on Shabbos, you daven shachris, and you get an aliyah, one of the Sheva Kruyim. If you have yard site during the week, the minig was to give him maftir, and he davens musaf. That's just a minute regarding this issue, and therefore, I think the priestess al Shema and the davening chakras are connected. Let me just see what the Shulchan Aruch says. What your question is? They don't bring it here. Some of Farshim say it means Musaf too. He gets all of the rewards. It means he's nice. He's oivel of neateva chakras and Musaf. But that's not brought by the Shulchan Aruch. A cotton that doesn't have Shtei Cyrus cannot duchen by himself. Some say if he's 13 years old, we don't check him. Some say you are medagdik by checking him. But a cotton can go up with other adult kohanim to be mechanech in the mitzvah. If he's got Shtei Cyrus, he can duchen by himself. Weiter. Rav Papa says Mishum Kovid. Rabbi Bar Simeon Mishum Dasi Linsuyi. People will fight. The guy will say, listen, I only got maftir, you got musaf? So they would fight. My binai, what's the nafkamina between whether it's because of kovid or fighting? It could be avid david bechina. For example, let's say he's not paid as a chazan, and nobody gets paid. So there is an issue of kovid. But there's no ktat of people are paid, because there's a paid person who does it. Tna and v'maya cotton, the Mishnah says, Ovid Rabo Ovid al Yado. What kind of reward if a cotton gets haftar, what reward do you give him? He can't daven those things. So you give it to his father, to his Rebbe. So if the reason is because of fighting, what cotton bar netsuyi? What he's going to fight? Elamai mishum kovid, cotton bar kovidu. I mean, cotton there's no nitsui and there's no kovid either. So what's the pshat? Ela ike kovid aviv kovid rabbi. Yeah, but there's the kovid of the father of the Rebbe, and that's why you have to give them the reward. Although fight with the father of the Rebbe. We say somebody who's not dressed properly, he's got his arms open or whatever. So he can rate Kriya Shema, he can't daven for the Yom. Shmona Esrei. If a cotton is not, we said a cotton can read the laning, but what if he's not dressed properly? Why don't you ask if he's naked? Or my time in law, it's the same thing, whether he's not wearing any clothes or whether he's wearing something that is revealing, that's also covered at tzibur. Suma paris al shma. We had a machlokes in the Mishnah whether a blind person can say Baruch Hu and be the shliach tzibur for the birchas kriyas shma, because it says ma'oros. Yotzer ma'oros. Tanya Amar lo Rabbi Yehuda. What does it make a difference whether you can? Chacham said Rabbi Yehuda, what do you make a difference if you can physically see? Harbeit safu lidrosh b'markava v'lo rosa b'meiyam. The first parak of Sefer Yechezkel is the vision of the Merkava, the chariot of Hashem. And that's Kabbalistic, deep Yisoidos. And people darshan it even though they never saw the Merkava. So the same thing here. Somebody could daven for the Amid even though he never saw the Mo'iris. Rabbi Yehuda says there's no tzushtel. Hasam ba'abnasa de libataya milsa. The Merkava has to do with an understanding heart. If he understands, even though he never saw it. But the Ma'oiros, we get hana. We get benefit from the light or from the heat. He gets benefit from the heat, but not from the light. So how do the Rabbanan respond? The Summa is not getting hana. Rabbanan says Islay hana. He gets hana. Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi. Kol yama yisi mitzral mikrazeh. My whole life there was a pasuk vayisam emashesh b'tzarayim. This is part of the tochacha. You're going to be like a blind. You're going to be like a person who has to feel his way around in the darkness, but you're going to have to do that even in the bright sunlight. Now, what does it have to say? The way a blind person walks or stumbles around in the darkness. A blind person stumbles around in the light. Why did the Torah have to say bafela? Rabbi Yossi had an episode that happened to him. He was stumbling around, walking at night. And he looks around, he sees a blind person walking around on the same road with a torch. You're blind, what do you need a torch for? What do you mean? If I have a torch, I see. Other people can see me and then they can get out of my way and they can help me. They make sure I don't fall into a pit or into thorns. So therefore, even a blind person has enough from the sun because other people can protect him. Mishnah. Kohen sheyesh biyod of mumin. Kohen who has blemishes. We don't want people staring at the Kohen's blemishes. It says in Chagiga, "Amistakel b'kohanim b'shash noisim miskapeyam ein of chaos." If somebody looks at the Kohanim when they're duchening, they become blind. Lefisha shchina shar al yadayim, because the shchina is on the Kohen's hands. So you can't. That's why we turn away and we don't look at the Kohanim. But if they've got some kind of unusual mum, it'll draw people to look at them. So Kohen sheish b'yad mumin lo yisas kapav, shouldn't duchen. Or you know, I mean, af mishayu yodav tzvuos satis, if his hands are discolored, lo yisas kapav neisham istaklim, but for the same reason. Tana mumin shamru b'fanav yodav v'ragla. The mumin we're talking about is if he has a mum in his face, hands or feet. Amr Yeshua ben Levi, yodav boy hakoniyos. If his hands are full of white spots, lo yisas kapav. He shouldn't duchen. Taina mehachi yodav boy hakoniyos, lo yisas kapav. He shouldn't duchen. Akumos, akushas. Let's say he's got rheumatoid arthritis, and his fingers are bent. Lo yisas kapav. It's a mum. Amr Vasi. Chifni uvishini lo yisas kapav. That means if they were from these places, from Haifa or Beit Sha'an, so they had a bad voice. And therefore, they shouldn't duchen. We didn't appoint as a chazan somebody from Beit Sha'an. Lanche Beis Haifa, not from Haifa. Lanche Tivoinim. They would pronounce an olive like an ayin, and they pronounce an ayin like an olive. And the halach is, if somebody doesn't read Hebrew properly, doesn't pronounce the words, he should not be called on to be a Bal Tefillah. He shouldn't duchen. Most people know him in the community, then they can do it. Then they can do it. Because they're used to him already.
They starting up with the Litvaks who couldn't pronounce the difference between a shin and a sin.
Exactly. But again, the halacha is if people are used to the guy because he lives in the community, then it's okay.
Yeah, but it changes the meaning of the word when you do mix up a shin and a sin.
The Shulchan Aruch says, Mishena yodeh levatet otiot karoi. He doesn't pronounce the letters. Ein rishai liot shliach tzibur. Avadim kol anshe makomim medabrim kach. So in in Lita, where everybody spoke that way with a sin, mutter. If he's the best Baal Tefillin, he can daven.
Listen, the Ungarische did a good job on it also, so it's okay too.
Right. Amalei Rav Chil Rav Shimon bar Rabbi. Ilmolei hata Levi, pasal atam aduchen. If it wasn't for you, the fact that you were a Levi, you would have been puzzled to go up and sing. Mishum da ave kolcha, you have a very thick voice, and that puzzles the Levi who has to sing. If you would have lived in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. Also, Amalei Lavua. So he went back, told his father Rabbi what was told to him. Amalei Zilei Malay. So he said, go tell Rab Chia, he could not pronounce a chet, he would pronounce it with a hey. If you'd also, hikiti is making making a klala. So he pointed out to Rab Chia, don't be such a groisavan, you have the same problem with pronunciation. Amar Ravuna, Zavlagan, somebody who has a problem with tearing, his eyes tear all the time. Lo yisas kapav, he shouldn't duchen. There was a Zavlagan in the neighborhood of Ravuna, and he duchen. Or says everyone knew him. That's this halacha that if he's there, and everybody's used to him, and they're used to the fact that then they don't look at his mum, and therefore he can duchen. There's a brisa to support that concept. Zavlagan lo yisas kapav. Somebody who has tearing should not duchen. If everyone knew him, it's okay. Suma bachas meinav lo yisas kapav. Somebody who's blind in one eye, and I guess it's one of these, like he's missing an eye. It's some kind of mum that the people will look at. So then he can't duchen. There was a guy like that who duchen. Again, the Gemara says who dashbirave. If he's not a newcomer and everybody knows is used to him, then he can duchen. If everyone knew him, it's okay. If he had colored hands, he shouldn't duchen. For example, he was a painter. He always had these colored hands. If the majority of the people in the city have the same thing, mutter, then he's permitted as well.
Well, why does any of this matter in that Kohanim duchen under talisim? Who cares what their hands look like? You can't see their hands.
Okay, but so
you can't see their face, you can't see their eyes, you can't see any of that.
So one of the reasons that they came up with the covering the hands is this issue, because the Shechina is shoira on their hands, and we don't want anybody looking at it.
Yeah, that's right. That's why you cover your hands, because of that.
Yeah. Because of it, right? It's the same svara. It's the same reason.
Harold, the Shechina is by you all the time, Harold.
Yeah, but if you're not supposed to look at it, so why do we make the takuna if you're not supposed to look at it going to see what he has? Why do we say that?
Because they know human nature.
Okay, I know, but so what?
People will be drawn to look at it. They can't help themselves.
You can't help it. You can't help yourself. Yeah.
That's it. It's just human nature.
If the Kohen's a good-looking guy, you can't help looking at him, Harold.
I'd like to find one.
Yeah.
Let me know when you find one.
Mishnah. Somebody says, I'm not going to be the shliach tzibur unless I can wear these colored clothes. So there's some kind of kishuf going on, or so therefore af bilavenim lo yav. So we don't let him daven at all, no matter what he wears, because there's some kind of minus going on, because he's being makpid that he's going to wear certain clothes when he davens. So we puzzle him to be a bal koyrei, a bal tefillah, or he says besandal any oiver. That I only going to daven wearing a sandal. Af yechaf lev. That means even if it was dressed the way the Chachamim want you shouldn't allow him to do it. Oiset filoso agula. You make your tefillin round.
It's amazing that colored clothes are a thing when you see that Yaakov gave Yosef a coat of many colors. So that's why is that kishuf? I don't understand. Why would it consider kishuf?
Minus. It has
Yeah,
probably
but
something to do with the meat.
it says it's kishuf also. The halacha says that.
Says kishuf too.
Uh-huh. Heretical.
But Rashi said the Gemara is going to say shema minus nizrikabo. Kumarim. Listen, Rashi says. I guess I don't know if in Steinsaltz he has the uncensored. The Gemara.
Right.
Let's just read the Mishnah. How is it filoso agula? If you make your tefillin box round, sakana ve'ein b'mitzvah. Now those of us in the surba learn because it's pointed and it's going to make a hole in your head. Sakana ve'ein b'mitzvah. Nasan al mitzvah al pas yado. If you put the tefillin on your forehead or on your hand, so areza derech minus. So, because it says beinei necha, it's like the tzdukim or the ayat chaman, al yadcha. And Rashi goes through how we learned. It's a code where the fontanelle is vayadcha goy vayad by the biceps. Rashi quotes the Gemara in Menachos.
We learned yesterday. Yeah.
We learned yesterday, right? And apparently it was derech minus to do it. Here minus. Kfira, the Masoras Chachamim. Chachamim say they received a Masor. How are you supposed to do it? And you're not doing it that way. You're a min.
I don't know why they stopped this minhag of putting gold on your tefillin. That's a good idea for me because I could make a lot of money.
Right. Stipin Zav, if you decorate it with gold, the tefillin, when a salbes unkli shalo. What is his neck? What's the base unkali? Hasharvel shalo. So that's hareza derech achitzonim. It's also, these are not the minig of Yisrael. What does it say base unkali? Here, Rashi says, this is a Greek word. It's a small garment. Like
Andre, with gold placed on the phylacteries, worn on the arm, on the outside of his sleeve. This is with the way of outsiders.
Sleeve.
Outside of his sleeve.
Yeah. Okay. So the Gemara says, my timer. Why should not we allow somebody who wants to wear colored garments? Chayshinan shema minus nezrikapo. Says Rashi, Kumarim talmidei Yeshu anotzri makpidin bekach. The priests who were the students or the disciples of Yeshua Notzri were makpid. That's what now I'm sure in the Vilna Shas they censored that. But the Steinsaltz brought anything that was censored by the Christian censor, he put back in. That's why we have that Rashi. How does it feel? And by the way, the word min comes from Maimin Yeshu Noitzri. Min, believer in Yeshua Noitzri. And the brach of the Laminim Alti Sikva. So that was established by Rav Gamliel in Yavna in the year 100. And that is exactly when there was a major conflict. The Jews in Israel did not succumb to Christian missionizing. That's why Saul of Tarsus, who became Paul, he ended up going to Greece and Turkey and all these other places. And the Romans initially supported the Jews. The Roman were not like the Greeks. Right? The Greeks wanted to Hellenize everybody. The Romans felt that it was easier for them to control their societies, let the old-time religions stay. So they knew that Judaism was a much older religion than Christianity. So the Romans did severely persecute the Christians. Now again, when Bar Kokhba 135 CE when they started the revolt. So then there were major pogroms against the Jews. But I'm talking about the first 100 years of the Roman rule, and when they were conflicting with the Christians, the Romans favored the Jews. And that bracha of the minim lalti sikva was established in Yavna. It was an extra bracha added. It fits the right time, that the way the scholars say now, in terms of the debate between Christianity and Judaism that occurred at that period. So lema tanina lahadaton rabbanon. Let us, because it says "Aosat tfilos agula sakana ve'ba mitzvah." So is that the same as the following brayso tefillim merubos halachul moshe misinai? Because it says your tefillin have to be square halachul moshe misinai. So does that brayso support our mission that says if you make it round, it's not good because you didn't fulfill halachul moshe misinai? It says it has to be square, even with the diagonal. It's got to be completely square. It's got to be like a cube. It's got to be square on all sides. So that Bryce already told me that if it's round, it's not good. Our Mishnah, you made it as like a walnut. It wasn't just round, it was completely spherical, like a ball. But there's no necessarily proof that our Mishnah says it has to be square. Yes, we have halachah mashim, but our Mishnah is not supporting that. And the way we learned in the Surba, these special round tefillin were sharp towards your head, and then it could penetrate into your head. That's why they didn't want you to do it.
All right.
Okay, very good.
Everybody,
Tomorrow 7:30.